Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Thursday morning, progressives, and welcome to the November 21st, 2024 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278, Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, Twitter stream, and, of course, iHeartRadio. Definitely email me at richard@WCPT820.com, and you can catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And that's where you can catch other shows of Choose Views, Joan Esposito, Live, Local, and Progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, Edwin Eisendrath, The Big Picture, and our Out Chicago team, as well as our other shows on interviews. Check out, of course, the digital platform known as heartlandsignal.com. And yes, you get lots of good stuff there. And that good stuff is stuff that you can share, as we say every day, because we want you to be plugged in. We want you to share with folks who you know need to hear things that are going on. We've got great articles over there, as always, and I'll be referencing a few of those a little bit later in the show. But here we are. It's Thursday, guys. Thursday, and we got one more day to our Friday spectacular, and that's all the cool stuff we throw at you on Fridays about the weekend and what to do. So looking forward to that. And my man Henry and I are here, keeping it on the rails, and we've got some amazing clips. One of the things that it was said to indirectly to me by a colleague that with this election, there's going to be a lot to talk about. There's going to be a lot to cover, and that's going to be true because and it's a double-edged sword. So a colleague said that Richard's show is going to be very busy and lots to cover because of the craziness, and that's true. It's crazy on steroids, frankly. So as much as there's a lot to cover, there's a lot to deal with. And I was saying to Henry yesterday, well, the thing that was the impetus for this next comment is something that happened yesterday. It wasn't a bad thing, just one of those moments. And this thing with the guitars now that are being sold, sneakers, guitar. It's like this retail. They're turning the White House into this retail. They're going to turn the White House into this retail store selling Trump garbage. And the guitar is probably going to have broken strings and, what's the thing that's used to tighten it, Henry?
The tuning pegs?
Yeah. They're going to be, worn out. Yeah. You can't get, it's going to be a cheap A guitar they're going to sell for a bunch of money, but the quality's not going to be there, which is true with Trump stuff. Just look at his, again, a little bit of dirt in Donald's face. Who crashes a casino? That's all you need to know for those of those who are out there. And I have to be careful to say those of you because I don't want to insult anyone in our audience and which we know is not going to be a high percentage of the MAGA crazies. But those of you who are out there that have forgotten, the dude crashed a casino and hotels that the list goes on. We know that. But here's the thing that I was gonna talk about, and that Henry and I kind of offline were chatting about. Henry made the comment. He said, it's almost like I forgot in some ways that it seemed like every day there was some craziness, some silliness, some version of a guitar being sold, by Trump. There was that, and before we came on, Rick Smith was talking about on the Rick Smith show, was talking about the, infrastructure. And we knew every week was infrastructure week. Every week was something week. It was like the latest, excuse my reference, but it's not being negative, but it was the latest blue light sale week, and I love me some Kmart growing up. So I'm not dissing Kmart at all. And I love the sale rack. I'm not dissing that at all, so nobody take that the wrong way. However, it was like, what crap can we throw against the wall seemingly weekly? And that So I had this moment that I was sharing with Henry, and I'll keep the profanity out. I was driving yesterday, and I had this moment where I said, I think as much as I'm, I'm challenged by and disappointed by the loss or Vice President Harris not winning this election and what she was going to bring to us in terms of all the great things she was bringing to the entire country, not just, the Trump acolytes and the acolytes in MAGA and the cult, but everybody. Okay. What I was looking forward to, as much as it's about policy and taking care of those who need to be taken care of and propping up our country and having great foreign policy, having great infrastructure, continuing all the things that President Biden and Vice President Harris have done for 4 years, no matter what the idiots want to say didn't happen and want to blame her for and blame him for. You're a doggone fool if you didn't stop and say, oh, wow, that is because of the Biden administration. And I laundry listed a few Biden wins yesterday. But you're a doggone fool if you didn't see those things, because as I've said, and I will say over and over again, the people that voted for this voted for chaos and carnage. They just did. And any of the successes that Trump has, particularly early on, are just the continuation of the successes from the Biden-Harris administration. That is a fact. And so when I was driving yesterday and I had this moment, and Henry reminded me of this. Trump is just flipping exhausting. He's just exhausting. Now, that doesn't mean that we lay down and we get run over. That's not going to happen. I'm punching hard. Believe me. I had a moment yesterday driving where I was just like, I know a lot of people would probably agree to this sentiment, and I'd like to hear from you in this space. As much as I wanted to see policy that was going to continue with the Harris-Walz administration, and all the good things that she was going to work toward for the betterment of the country and the rest of the world, I was just looking forward to not having to be exhausted from this flippin' fool. And at this age, at this chronological age in my life, really looking forward to having a little bit of a moment of breathing relief. And what got me was I saw this post, Henry, that the actress, and boy, I got to be really, really a gentleman here and not say what I really want to say when I pulled up her information online. The actress Justine Bateman. Google her, guys. Google if you're near a computer. Google Justine Bateman. Okay, and don't be shocked by what happens when the images come up. Henry, my man. Come on, man. Give me some dap, Henry. Give me a little bit. Okay. I made Henry blush. He knows what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say anything. You all do it yourselves. Okay. So, she made this comment about, now that Trump has been elected, that I can breathe because of this whole thing around freedom of speech has been, cold watered. That's my word. And, we can't say anything. We have to be so concerned about, not saying something that's going to be considered whatever. At the end of the day, it's that classic conversation where someone wants to say something horrible about people. She wants to use the N word. She wants to use the F word. She wants to use the S word. And the list goes on. And not have to deal with any of the consequences of it. And I'm doing everything I can to not talk about the visuals here. But you know how people have said that certain people carry their stress outwardly, and their ugliness on the inside, they carry it outwardly. Henry is losing himself over here. You know how they say that about some folks? They carry their internal stress outwardly, and they may have good genetic, they may have a good genetic code that shouldn't be what is exemplified externally. Thank God I have a reasonable vocabulary, because I am doing everything I can to tap around what Henry is saying. But she basically said, I want to be able to say whatever I want to say without any repercussions. And now that Trump's president, I'm going to be able to do that. This is what I was talking about, years ago when my brother-in-law and I were in D.C. and we were talking about the unleashing of the crazy people who were going to be unconcerned about what they say and what they do, that the lid would come off and this would happen. And I was talking about it from the standpoint of violence and what people would be doing and perpetrating on other citizens. And now here we are again. Justine Bateman is saying that I want to be able to say whatever the hell I want to. I'm tired of having to be careful with what I say, which means she wants to say ugly, nasty stuff about people. And that's part of what I was looking forward to, is the reduction in the exhaustion from having to deal with that type of personality. That's what I was like, at this age, it'd be nice to not have to deal with that. Now, I can imagine, I think about my older sister who said to me when Roe v. Wade was struck down, she said, you remember as a little boy, as my baby brother, how much I fought as a grown woman to have those safety nets in place. And I do remember it. I do vividly remember it as a little boy, young boy, whatever you want to call it, preteen, early teen, watching my sister navigate those waters. So I can only imagine what a woman of a certain that was an adult in the late 60s, early 70s, had just, become an adult, that's now in their, 70s, is feeling about having the temperature come down and the exhaustion of Trump go away. But we're here for the fight, y'all. We are here for the fight. And the part of it, too, that gets me is I just said myself at this age, and then I think about women who are older than me having to kind of reprocess all this. But Henry's quite a bit younger than I am, and he said it. Okay? So that's the part that people who voted for this craziness voted for. We got an age band from early 70s to late 20s. Saying the same thing. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We're going to keep you guys fired up and inspired. I promise you that. But I just wanted to let you know. 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
It's Chew's View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, for those of you who are watching, I'm not crying. My eyes are just like super dry this morning, so I had to drop some. And plus, Henry's got me laughing like a fool up in here because he sees on the screen what I'm not going to say out on the air about what I was talking about a moment ago, about the ugliness of a person internally coming out externally. So we had a big old laugh there a moment ago, and I'm going to try to leave it there, but I know that I'm as susceptible as the next person, but so I'm going to leave that there. But listen, guys, the craziness that we are seeing is there. It's something that we have to deal with. And again, we have to lock arms and be strong enough and confident enough in each other to know that we are going to not only survive, but we're going to get past this and we're going to turn the clock. It starts with local elections, doggone it. It starts with us welling ourselves up and saying, okay, they got what they wanted this time, but we're going to get what we want going forward. And I think this is the opportunity for Democratic leaders and us as progressive liberal Democrats to say, I heard, again, something that Rick Smith said, and I thought about this, so I'll clean it up to the extent that he kind of said it. You come from my knees, I'm going to put your face in the ground. And so they came for our knees, guys. They did. So we got to be prepared to put their faces in the ground. And it is a football terminology, and I knew exactly what he was talking about. So he wasn't talking about causing harm to anybody. So credit to Rick Smith for saying that. But I'm going to repeat it because it needs to be repeated. They came for us with some garbage, and they lied and all those things. But we are going to put them down. We are definitely going to make sure that they have to pay. So I'm going to hit a couple quick Choose Views news with you guys, and then we're going to come back and talk about some of the items of the day. So Comcast, as you guys may have heard yesterday, is starting to spin off some of its cable networks. It will spin off its NBC Universal cable television networks, the company announced yesterday. Channels including MSNBC, CNBC, and USA, part of a group generating about $7 billion in revenue annually, will move to the new entity, while Bravo, the Peacock streaming service, and the NBC broadcast network will remain with the parent company. Separation marks a reversal of fortune since Comcast acquired NBC Universal in 2011. Its cable stations were seen as prime assets, but viewership has eroded as subscribers have defected to what? Streaming platforms. The move is expected to take about next year, 2025. I got a whole bunch of comments about that, but I'll tie it into the rest of the show. Target posts massive earnings miss. They missed expectations, in other words, on earnings and revenue last quarter, and is cutting its full-year profit guidance just 3 months after raising that same forecast. The company said yesterday it was the big box chain's biggest earnings miss in 2 years, and its first revenue miss since summer of 2023, despite slashing prices on thousands of items this year. CEO Brian Cornell blamed, quote, lingering softness in discretionary categories. In other words, people aren't buying crap when they don't need to. That's the mainstream regular folks' words for saying they're not wasting money on stuff that they don't need to buy. And costs associated with October's port strike. And that's understandable. In contrast, rival Walmart on Tuesday reported increased sales on discretionary items. Why? Because they're cheap. While TJ Maxx parent company notched a strong start to the holiday shopping season, which is true. That typically happens about this time. Delta targets wealthy travelers. Now, this is one that, you guys have to take this to some extent with a grain of salt. Delta Airlines hinted it's targeting affluent travelers as it outlined its long-term goals for the coming years at an investor presentation on Wednesday, yesterday. Delta expects sales growth to grow in 2025, driven by strong travel demand, credit card spending, and a resilient economy. I thought our economy was failing, Henry, and we were a third world nation, and that the dumb A people out there weren't going to vote for that, but they did. Delta is bullish on consumer spending, particularly among millennials and Gen Z. It's focusing on upscale travel experiences and plans to offer more premium seats, which is a revenue driver. Although Delta is the most profitable U.S. carrier, rival United Airlines has made significant progress in increasing profits and attracting high-end passengers. So you can take that with somewhat of a grain of salt. Ford plans entrenchment in Europe. Ford has announced plans to cut 4,000 jobs in Europe in this retrenchment effort, citing a lack of government support in electrical vehicle purchases and price competition from Chinese rivals. A reduction equaling 14% of its European workforce would primarily impact Germany and would be completed by 2027. EVs are their concern there. Netflix gears up for the football NFL test, in other words, and Netflix may claim to have drawn the largest ever streaming audience for a sporting event with last weekend's Mike Tyson-Jake Paul boxing match, but the streamer will be looking to put that broadcast text glitches in the rearview mirror that they had as it tackles, no pun intended, its highest profile event yet. A Christmas Day NFL broadcast featuring Beyonce as halftime performer. Let's see. Citing anonymous sources, NFL officials are confident the streamer can iron out the wrinkles before the game day that they experienced during the Tyson-Paul fight. And Big Food seeks Ozempic opportunity. GLP-1 treatments such as Ozempic and Wegovy aren't just helping people lose weight. They're transforming what they crave, which poses an existential threat, but also presents major opportunity to the market. Most Ozempic and Wegovy users say they don't crave ultra-processed foods, so food scientists are scrambling to create new products for industrial giants like Nestle, Coca-Cola, and General Mills. The science believe tweaked versions will ultimately do the trick. Meanwhile, Big Food is hungry to roll out the new offerings since GLP-1 users are expected to triple to 24 million by 2035. Okay, there you go, guys. Helping folks watch what they eat and have a slightly better way of living when it comes to their diet. I'm a big proponent of that, and do my best in that space. But I won't lie. I do like my chips. I do like my tortilla chips. But I try to watch that as well. So, in that space, guys, in terms of the Choose Views news, I know a lot of things that we talk about may seem very corporate, but the goal is to keep you guys posted when it comes to things that you deal with. Comcast is a big part of everyone's life, and the changes that are taking place there. The retail stores, the travel, just try to bring you some things that make sense in your day-to-day experiences, since we are a consumer-based economy. All right. I said I would stay away from certain things, and I'm going to do my best to do that. But I did have that moment yesterday in the car where I just thought, this dude's exhausting. But guess what? I've been exhausted before, and I got some rest and rallied back and decided to punch forward. And that's what the MAGA folks got to be prepared for. They may be elated and feel empowered, but there's some PO'd folks on our side, and there's a lot of us. So don't bring any, there's a couple of phrases that will be appropriate here. And I hope you guys can buy into this. Don't start none, and won't be none. Okay? So for the folks who are the MAGA justifiers of Trump, justifiers of the Republican message and all that garbage right now, I will say to you, don't start none, and there won't be none. And I'll say that early in the morning today, because I know a lot of people are feeling one of the things that I just said myself, which is the Trump era of exhaustion. We wanted it to be over as well. And that's what Vice President Harris was talking about. You mean to tell me this was bad messaging to say we want to turn the page? So anybody out there that's still locked into messaging and branding and PR, and anybody that didn't understand that the Trump 4 years were exhausting while he was in office, and the 4 years subsequent to that were exhausting, and we needed to turn the page, you were not paying attention. You just didn't want to vote for that particular beautiful brown-skinned woman. That's what it was. But I tell you, you come for folks right now. I saw a great clip from a Caucasian woman in the South. And it was 2 minutes long, and every 10 seconds she said something, an expletive that Henry would have had to, spend his entire day just clipping it out. So I didn't even send it to Henry so that we could play. But it was really good, because basically what she talked about, as a Southern white woman, she said, I'm sick and tired of the other Southern white women pretending that they are the cat's meow, and that they're going to tell us, the what for. And she laid into Southern white women for their privileged, haughty attitudes. And that those of you who are expecting that things are going to change, they are going to change, as she was saying, but they're going to change in a way that's going to cause you harm. And man, she went after him. She talked about the disrespect that you're going to continue to see from the men in your lives that you've, put on a pedestal, and golly. But she also talked about, and the reason I circle back to this, she talked about the craziness on steroids. That's my word. But she talked about just wanting to get away from the exhaustion, and too many people being afraid to say, yeah, it's time to turn the page. So we're going to band together. As I've said, we're going to lock arms, but we also got to get it out of our systems every now and again. And that was one of the points I wanted to make about, if Justine Bateman thinks that she can breathe now, guess what? We're going to breathe back. And your internal ugliness is showing itself externally. All right, guys, here we come with another break. The number is 773-763-9278. We will be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So I want to read something to you really quickly, and then we're going to grab a quick call. This was something that was put out by the daughter of MLK, and Coretta Scott King posted this advice for the next 6 months. As the next 6 months are going to get quite real once this transition takes place. But it's good measure for the rest of this term that we're going to go through, and how to keep people inspired. And it was a hashtag, never say his name. So I'm going to read really quickly. First one, don't say his name ever. 45 will do. Remember, this is a regime, and he's not acting alone. Number 3, don't argue with those who support him. It doesn't work. Number 4, focus on his policies, not on his orangeness and his mental state. Number 5, keep your message positive. They want the country to be angry and fearful because this is the soil from which their darkness and policies will grow. Number 6, no more helpless or hopeless talk. And that's probably my favorite one. Number 7, support artists and the arts. Number 8, be careful not to spread fake news. Check it and check it again. Number 9, take care of yourselves. And number 10, resist. And in paragraphs, she writes, when you post or talk about him, don't assign his actions to him. Assign them to, quote, the Republican administration or the Republicans. This will have several effects. The Republican legislatures will either have to take responsibility for their association with him or stand up for what some of them don't actually like. He will not get the focus of attention that he craves. So that's another piece of good advice from the daughter of MLK and Coretta Scott King on things that we should do, which is to never say his name or say it as least as few times possible. And to that end, in terms of associating this with Republicans, there's some clips that we're going to get to in the 7 o'clock hour that I want you guys to hear that are coming from some of our representatives who are our leaders now and ones that we are going to have to lean into and help support them, as I spoke of yesterday and the day before. But let's go to a quick call. Let's go to Kurt in Akron. Good morning, Kurt. Welcome to Choose Views. What's going on?
Good morning, Richard. And hey, first of all, what Bernice King just said, I agree with most of that, but we do have to keep in mind his mental situation too, because, he is fastly, declining mentally.
Yeah. We see that. So was it you that said to me yesterday, sent this to me, that he's turning 80 or will be what I said
he's going to be 82 in 2028.
Right. That's right. That's what you said. Okay.
So here's my call. The reason for the call too is how ironic is it that we live in a world where Michael J. Fox in real life is a liberal Democrat, and he played a Republican on TV, and his TV sister, who was a Democrat on TV, is a MAGA Republican. But, of course, I will give Michael J. Fox this. When he went on Spin City and played that deputy mayor on Spin City, he was a Democrat.
Yeah, I know. That is the definition of irony. You nailed it. And
that's the thing. And that's the thing, too, is she said something about now she's showing her ugliness. By the way, she believes in au naturel, that she doesn't believe in cosmetic surgery. That's why she looks the way she does it, going on 60. But what I was going to say is, what does that say to her about her and how she feels about her TV brother, Michael J. Fox, and all the hell he's going through with his Parkinson's disease?
Yeah. I mean, does she think that, I don't know what she thinks, and I don't want to load the question or the comment, but one could assess from her positions now that she doesn't really give a damn. Maybe. And
here's another one I'll give to you too. What does she think about her TV mother, Meredith Baxter, who is now an open lesbian?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the whole reason I brought her name to the table was because of this whole thing about I can breathe now. And I thought about it clearly from the perspective of, so then other people can't breathe, and because you want to be able to say whatever you want to say without any consequence for saying it. Well, the Chicago in me was really enlightened by that, because I was like, okay, great. Let's have a conversation, Justine, because I got some things I want to say that I don't say because I can't say on the air about this craziness.
Exactly.
So bring it on.
And at least we have Jason Bateman on Smartless, who seems to be So there's that. So we do have Jason Bateman doing interviews with Joe Biden and Barack Obama and Bill Clinton. But real quickly, you and I were talking yesterday about how politicians, especially the Democrats, tend to put personal into things. You know, like when Bill Clinton and I embraced for that photo 12 years ago, and we were the only people in that room for 30 seconds. I'm actually in the middle of reading Hillary Clinton's newest book called Something Lost, Something Gained.
Right.
And I'm to the point where she talked about how while she was Secretary of State or while she was a U.S. Senator, she felt in order to – specifically Senator and Secretary of State, but she did this as First Lady too. But she talked how she would specifically take time out of going from palaces and glitz and glamour and everything when she would be on a state trip or a state visit somewhere. And she'd actually go out into the trenches and talk to the people. And she talked about the salt farm in India where she would talk about how these women and children would basically get blisters and, you know, boils and everything else from working in the salt farms in the sweltering heat. And she said in order for someone to understand what a policy is and how it affects everyday people, because it can get lost in the glitz of the White House or in leadership in the Congress or at the State Department or whatever, you need to have those personal stories to connect to, and you need to understand them and listen to the people out there who are actually living the real life, because you're making policies that affect them personally. And she said she would actually get looked down upon by other dignitaries worldwide for actually taking the time to go talk to, say, a Richard Chu or a Kurt Herter or a Kurt Mullett or a Karen Byrne or whatever the case may be out there in the real world, thinking, what right do we have to give her any information kind of stuff. So I wanted to say Hillary Clinton, as much as people may hate her, and I don't know why, other than the fact that she's another powerful woman, but other than that, you know, she actually will go into the trenches, believe it or not, and she'll listen to the people and she'll connect with them. And you don't see that on the Republican side, especially with that.
Any of our top, Kurt, think about this, and you guys who are listening and following, any of our top Democratic elected officials, and if you look across the board, they have that capacity to slow down the universe that they're in for a moment and go and look at and engage with the person that they know is the real substance of who we are as humanity. And any great world leader, if you think about all the world leaders, one of the things that they have done so well is they've gone and connected. I mean, I'm talking about, you know, we can go way, way back in the Wayback Machine. And I know that, Kurt, being a historian, can pull data on different people, but they all had that capacity to help connect with an everyday person. And sometimes, listen, the thing that somebody else does well can make you jealous. And Hillary Clinton got a lot of heat from women because there's a lot of women out there who were jealous of the fact that she said, I'm going to have a child, I'm still going to have a career, and I'm still going to be an impactful leader. And there were a lot of women that didn't vote for her, not because of the Bill Clinton thing, but they were or the emails. They were flat out jealous. They were jealous. That's the real truth.
They didn't have the capacity, or they didn't have the situation at that moment, or the opportunity.
And some of these women were born into some elements of privilege. So we're not just talking about women who were middle or middle income or lower income families. We're talking about women who were born into privilege that were upset because they followed the patriarchy and didn't cut their own path like Hillary Clinton did so well.
And maybe I can say this easily because I'm not a woman, but I would look at someone like Hillary Clinton or even Kamala Harris, or for that matter, let's look at Jill Biden, who actually worked while she was second lady and first lady, and say, I want that for me. Good for her. That's someone I can look up to, and that's someone I can strive to be like, instead of being jealous. We're a nation of jealousy. That's the problem. And I'll tell you this, too, while we're on the subject of women. Nancy Mace, what a bunch of bull crap.
Yeah, man.
She ruffled feathers by being the first woman for graduating from the Citadel in South Carolina. And I can remember conservatives at that time calling her a you-know-what because of that. Yep. And now look what she's doing in Congress.
Now she's drinking from the same spigot. And did you see the video that came out of her at a party with some of her Citadel friends, and it's pretty disgusting. But she takes a shot of alcohol, whatever it might be. She drinks it, swirls it around, and then mouths it to another woman sitting at the table, who then mouths it to a guy, who then mouths it to another woman, and the last two spit up whatever it was disgusting.
I only do keg stands at political parties.
So Nancy Mace, and I posted a number of things yesterday. Nancy Mace is the opposite of the other strong women that we've come to follow and respect across the board, and she is dirtying up the playground right now with some of the stuff that she's doing with the Sarah McBride situation. She's really dirtying it up. So,
and then I want to bring this up real quick. Donald Trump Jr., 1977. Ivanka Trump, 1981. Eric Trump, 1984. All born before their mother, Ivana Trump, became a naturalized U.S. citizen in 1988.
That's right.
Barron Trump, born March 2006. Born before his mother, Melania Trump, became a naturalized U.S. citizen in July of 2006. I saw that Kurt Mullet put that out as a meme yesterday on
Instagram. I was joking around a little bit about that, but also being serious in terms of this falls, the repealing of birthright citizenship could, if we're going to be literal about it, then all of Trump's children, well, no, not all.
4 or 5.
4 of the 5 need to be deported. I mean, if we're going to be literal about it.
And then if you really want to be literal, Barack Obama, his father wasn't born in this country, but his mother was born in Kansas, but they're saying he's not eligible to be president because his father wasn't born in this country. Let's just do a little comparison here. George McGovern, his mother was born in Canada.
Yep.
But his father was born here. Michael Dukakis, both of his parents were born in Greece. Donald Trump's mother was born in Scotland. Why aren't we saying boo about those guys not being eligible to be president? Oh, I know why. And then Kamala Harris, because her mother was born in India and her father was born in Jamaica. Why aren't we talking boo about McGovern, Dukakis, and Trump being eligible or not being eligible to be president? Oh, I forgot, because they're all white and they're male.
And so the great thing about what Kurt just said, guys, it wasn't a partisan piece. It was facts about the process and birthright citizenship. It wasn't about left or right. It was about the whole process. So if at the end of the day, it does come down to what's the connective tissue? Like Kurt said, because they aren't of color. That's the bottom line.
Or because they're not male in Kamala Harris's case.
There you go. Exactly. All right, man. We got this break coming up. Kurt,
right,
thanks for the call. You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Smart people make me smile. And Kurt is one of them, as so many of you guys are who listen and follow not just this show, but the other programming on WCPT and Progressive Talk Radio. All right, we're going to take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. In the 7:30 hour today, we will have Simon Parkin, who's an author and recently published The Forbidden Garden, great book that you guys will want to get. We'll have him with us at 7:30, so we want to tune in to that part of the show. And later today, Joan Esposito will be joined by Eric Zorn of the Picayune Sentinel, Marissa Cabas, author of the Substack newsletter The Handbasket, and Charles Bethia, exhibition curator at the Chicago History Museum. Great place, by the way, to go to. That's an awesome place to visit. He'll be talking about Emmett Till, the Emmett Till exhibit that opens on November 23rd. Live, local, and progressive weekdays, 2 to 5 p.m. Central Time on WCPT 820. And then tonight, Patty Vasquez from 5 to 7 p.m. will be joined by guest host Elizabeth Laidlaw, and their guests will include Dan Schaefer of the Recommunation Era with his weekly look at Wisconsin politics. Driving it home with Patty Vasquez. None other. Weekdays, 5 to 7 p.m., WCPT 820. And, of course, I heard that Choose Views has its own podcast, 2 of them, full episodes and Views Choose Views featured interviews. You can check out a lot of stuff there. Subscribing to both. The podcasts are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeart Radio, YouTube, Amazon, and TuneIn. Just search for Choose Views with Richard Chu, or get the links by visiting heartlandsignal.com/choose-views. And, of course, featured interviews from folks like Michelle Duster, who we had on earlier this week, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, and all the rest. Great folks that you want to follow or check out the interviews that we were able to do with them. So get yourself over to heartlandsignal.com for updates, and listening live, of course, you can catch us here 6 to 8 a.m. every morning. Stephanie Miller's show follows me. Joan Esposito, of course, follows Tom Hartman, who follows Stephanie, and then Patty Vasquez driving it home. So just wanted to get those in for all of my colleagues and my other road dogs here on WCPT. Now, circling back to what my man Kurt was saying about this whole conversation around what I introduced yesterday at the end of the show, birthright citizenship. Yeah, I mean, there's the destruction that would cause to the country is just off the charts. I mean, listen, I want to make sure that I did a little research yesterday and the day before, and the number of people who are, based on not the Department of Labor, but the Census Bureau, that goes back and tracks these bits of information. You know, my question is, and I'm positioning this in the frame of this young woman who was killed, Laken Riley, okay, by this guy who was illegally in the country. Okay. Stupid, sucky, sad, awful situation. It just is. But what about the legal folks that are here in the country that are killing people? How about the white supremacists that are killing black folks and running into synagogues and to places of worship and killing black folks? What about exporting some, getting some of, how about stopping that, MAGA? How about stopping that? Okay? Those are your people killing other people, and they're here they, quote unquote, are here legally. How about addressing that? But no, they don't want to talk about that. I guess they think that's their birthright, to be able to just willy-nilly go ahead and kill some black folks or some Hispanic folks or Jewish folks or women. How about that? I'm more concerned about the women that are having to bleed out, which is happening far more frequently than a crazy fool who kills a young woman while she's out jogging. And how the Republicans use racism to amplify that. I'm more concerned about that. Women having to go through this hell down in Texas, in Florida, in Oklahoma. And speaking of Oklahoma, I got to come back to this. Henry, if you were the head of education or superintendent of schools in a state, would you spend $6 million on Bibles, or would you spend $6 million on helping kids get some food in their tummies?
That's a really tough choice there. If I'm not partisan and biased, I would say food and all that would be a way better priority to get children educated and, functioning and doing everything they need to do. So, I think it's a pretty easy choice personally, but
there you go.
Yeah.
So talking about this for a second, and I took a side road. I can't believe that, but what I can't believe is the people of the state would let this dude spend $6 million on Trump Bibles that cost $3 to make in China, just like I understand this guitar is going to be made. $3 it costs to put the Bible, these Trump Bibles together, and reselling them at a crazily inflated price. For what? You're reselling you're reselling the quote unquote Book of God, and then an inflated price. I mean, come on, people! And the dude is going to spend $6 million of public funds. If we don't live in the state of Oklahoma, we should be yelling and screaming about that. If we live in a blue state, we should be yelling and screaming about that. You want to know why? Because Oklahoma is not one of those states that contributes more money to the federal government than it gets back. It's like Tennessee. It's like Mitch McConnell in Kentucky. So we in blue states, this is the power that we can have if we choose to have it. We can talk about why it's more important that we deal, and I say more important, and if you guys got a problem with that, then call me or text me. I think it's more important to deal with the fact that there are women dying from archaic, chaos-driven medical treatment denial than a person that killed a young woman, and that is sad as hell. So don't get me wrong here. They're both awful. But one of them is built off of racism, and the other one is built off of sexism. So when you tell me, or people try to tell me that this race was about the economy, I call BS on it. Because the Lake and Raleigh situation is sad as hell, but there are black men that have been killed by white men in this country, and it's going to happen again before Trump gets sworn in. And these are white dudes that live in the country. They were so-called born here. And I don't see a bunch of, folks, MAGA running around whining about. I don't see Nancy Mace whining about that. There are going to be some LGBTQ members. There are going to be some trans members of our society who were born, quote unquote, if you're a believer in God. They're all God's children that are going to get killed by white men born in this country. And ain't nobody going to say a doggone thing about it, other than use hate as a form of justification for it. Now, Lake and Raleigh's death is awful, just like any other death is, but the fact that it was a dude who got here illegally, let's check to see how many illegal Russians are here that have caused harm. I mean, I'm being very literal for a purpose, and people got a problem with it, okay. But that's the kind of stuff you got to sometimes slow down and talk about, so you understand how racism, sexism, nationalism, Christian nationalism, and misogyny are used as the biggest tools right now. Okay? So think about that as you're processing this. And then when you look at that in terms of what are real issues, spending $6 million on Bibles is insane. It's insane. They want to make children read prayer in school. Excuse me? So blue states, this is where we get to step up and say, no. Because if federal dollars are supporting the state of Oklahoma or any other red state, if dollars from blue states are helping dollars from red states and they're using them for things like that, we should have some say about it. That's how I see it. That's where we have to come from now. We have to, and it was posted, and I meant to bring this, and I apologize, but it was posted that there are folks that are now starting to say, you know what? If my tax dollars are going to a red state, then and I'm from a blue state, I want to have something to say. I want to have some say in that, and I agree. I agree. That's what we as blue states should be willing to do, is say, nah, you don't get to use the indirect funding that comes from our successful state to make your state look better, or to do something that's crazy like buying $6 million in Bibles at an inflated price. That's crazy. That's crazy. I just wanted y'all to hear that. It's just flat out crazy. So, there you go. Coming to the top of the hour. Yeah, sometimes you just got to put it out there so you guys can have that to chew on. No pun intended. All right, the number is 773-763-9278. Guys, we will be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
And take it away I shall. Welcome back to Choose Views, second hour, 773-763-9278. So listen, guys, the Democrats are making the media pay for supporting Trump. The corporate media thought that they could support Trump and that the audience would come back after the election. They were very wrong. Audiences are fleeing mainstream media, and that is really something to keep an eye on. The biggest media companies badly wanted Donald Trump back in the White House. They did. Let's be honest. Two of the big three are run by white male Republican, chaos dudes, Murdoch and Malone, Eminem squared, not in a good way. Those two creatures want to see the carnage. They don't care. All right. They missed the days when they were the center of the news as a fearful nation turned to them to hold Donald Trump accountable, which didn't happen, by the way. It hasn't happened, period, not in one shape, form, or fashion. There may be 2 or 3 people in the media that have done that. Rachel Maddow, Lawrence O'Donnell, Joy Reid. I'm really struggling because I know there's other names I want to say, but they were back and forth. Maybe Chris Hayes a little bit, but even Nicole Wallace, she was a letdown in many cases. And we won't even get into the earlier in the daytime folks on MSNBC, Katie and whatever that other who's retiring. What's her name? She's it doesn't matter, but I'm talking about those 3. On and on. So they thought that they were going to get a big boom, but however, the writing's been on the wall since before the election. Bezos punking out at the Washington Post about the endorsement, and on and on. So low turnout is low viewership is going to cause them to continue to scramble. And we aren't going to bail them out this time. We are not going to do that. Don't do it. Get your information from the people that you trust. Check it. Like Bernice King said, and I'm quoting her, where she said, be careful not to spread fake news. Check it. If at any time in our lives we need to check stuff, it's now. But find the sources that you trust and that are valuable and they present a cogent argument, and then still check that. Check me out. Make sure, what I bring to you guys, I do my dead level best every day to check it and make sure that, one, most importantly, that it's accurate, factual, and that it's relevant. So I know I try to hit the mark every day, and I know that sometimes I might not have something completely baked out, so I'm not going to talk about it just yet. Or I might put it out as a little bit of a tease with the goal of coming back to having it right. That's what I owe you guys. But check out everything that in terms of media right now. Make them pay, because if they didn't lie like Fox did, then they certainly didn't cover things in a way that would have been more productive for the country. And now they're going to pay for it. And what I feel bad for are the people that work for some of the big media outlets that are going to, their jobs and their careers as dedicated journalists will be impacted by the C-suite knuckleheads that cause some of the problems. So there you go. I think we've got our guest. Oh, is he early?
I think he's ready to go to you.
Let's put him on hold and let's go to a quick break and then come back. Is that okay? Will that be okay? Oh, perfect. All right, cool. All right, well, then there we go. Let's we'll change things up a little bit. That's what happens with live radio. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll have our guest Simon Parkin with us. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Live radio, guys. It happens. So the New York Times has praised this gentleman's literary eye for scenic and investigative detail and described his criticism on gaming and play as thoughtful and serious. The Library Journal has described this gentleman's journalism as groundbreaking, claiming that his reportage leads to brilliant, fresh insights. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about, and welcome to the show, Simon Parkin. Simon, are you there?
Hi there. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey,
yeah,
welcome.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Choose Views. Where are you physically at right now? I just have to ask.
Oh, so I live about an hour south of London in England, near a place called Brighton on the coast.
Oh yeah, I know Brighton. There's one of my favorite songs written by a jazz artist is called Brighton Beach, but he's referring to the one in New York, but he references back to London as well, or to the United Kingdom. Simon, welcome to the show, and I am excited to have you because your most recent work, oh my goodness, is just being so well received. And The Forbidden Garden, Tell us a little bit about this most recent work that you've done and what got you to that point.
Yeah, sure. So the Forbidden Garden is about the world's first seed bank. So that is a sort of library of plants and seed matter. And people might be surprised to learn that it was situated in the middle of the Russian city St. Petersburg, which at the time was known as Leningrad. And it was in the middle of the city off St. Isaac's Square, and they had around 250,000 seeds and plants that had been collected from all around the world and brought to the middle of the city for experimentation to essentially breed crops that would give better yields from farmers. And my book is about a particular moment in the history of the seed bank during the Second World War, when, as I'm sure many of your listeners will know, the city of Leningrad was surrounded by German troops and who began a siege. And the siege lasted for nearly 900 days. It's the longest siege of any city in human history. And the botanists who worked at the seed bank were faced with a terrible decision. While the millions of people in the city are starving around them and themselves starving to death, they don't have enough food coming in, should they eat the plant matter that they have in the seed bank and distribute it to the people in need outside the doors of the institute, or should they preserve those seeds for the good of science so that when the siege ends, they can continue their experiments, they can plant fields and hopefully end world hunger and famine? That was the choice that they were faced with as the city is starving and being bombed, and they face these terrible decisions. And I try in the book to take readers into that situation week by week as the siege develops and as the need becomes greater and the danger to the people working, the botanists working in the seed bank, increases.
A lot of people don't know the difference between fiction and nonfiction. And as a very well-received and well-known writer, take a moment. And I think just from a purely, let's let folks understand the difference, because we have different writers that are on our shows here on our station here in Chicago. But take a moment and explain the difference between fiction and nonfiction and maybe give an example of the two.
Sure. So fiction would be novels, stories that have been created and fabricated by the author, which would, include, I don't know, any number of books by Dickens or Jane Austen or, whoever your favorite author is, be it the Da Vinci Code or something way back like Rebecca or by Daphne du Maurier or, whatever novel stories that you enjoy. And nonfiction are books that are factual, so they're based on real events that occurred. And generally speaking, you never blend the two. So if you're writing a nonfiction book or a history book, it should all be factual and you shouldn't be inventing anything. And, in my book, The Forbidden Garden, it is a nonfiction book. It's a history book. Everything in the book are things that happened that I found in sources, in letters or diaries or memoirs that were written by the people who lived through those events. But at the same time, I'm trying to write the book in an engaging way that perhaps people who enjoy fiction or novels might find accessible. So it's not a really dry history book that you might have read while you were at school. I'm trying to make it as engaging and entertaining as possible while still remaining true to the facts.
Got it. So what were the influences in your formative years, preteen, teen, or as you might say, in primary school and second? What were those influences in terms of writers and such?
Oh, wow. As a young person, I liked, I read, as many people did, I read the books that I was assigned at school, so Shakespeare and, things like The Go-Between and all those kind of novels that you have to study and write about. In my spare time, I enjoyed reading the stories by writers like Enid Blyton. This is when I was very young, things like The Faraway Tree and The Famous Five, which are popular books here in the UK. And then as I got older, I expanded those tastes and I started reading more nonfiction. I became a big fan of the journalists, particularly American journalists, who would write longer stories, but in very dynamic, exciting ways. So my tastes are quite varied, but those are kind of the influences on me, I think, for this book. Would be some of those writers who perhaps worked for Rolling Stone or The New Yorker or New York Magazine in the 70s and 80s and that kind of era.
Yeah. Were you influenced by, or I shouldn't say, how were you, and how has music influenced your writing over the years?
Music, did you say?
Yes, music.
Well, I mean, I do listen to music while I'm writing a lot of the time. So I try to listen to things that don't have lyrics, but would be, enjoying instrumental stuff that I write to. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the music journalists like Lester Bangs and Hunter Thompson, people like that, who were writing about music, but also, in the case of Rolling Stone, about the social groups and political groups and things like that. Those were the kind of influences on my writing for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So, what was it like being a contributor to the New Yorker?
I learned so much. It's obviously a magnificent institution that's been around for 100 years, and it was a tremendous privilege being able to work with the editors there, who are the best in the world, I think, and learning from them, and of course making mistakes and missteps, but having people who really know what they're doing to help guide me and instruct me, and trying to learn as best I could from that. Yeah. I've written quite a few pieces for them and have worked with different editors there, and always continue to learn things from there. Yeah.
One of the things that this is probably, not to draw you into U.S. politics, but being someone that has written and traveled the world, that's a big conversation right now in the United States, and that's books in schools and certain books being, for lack of better words, thrown out of our school systems and out of our libraries and banned and all the other words that we can use. Not to put you into a political conversation, but give us your observation in that space.
Well, I mean, of course, like most writers, I'm completely against book banning. I think to bring it to the Forbidden Garden, the book I've worked on here, the seed bank was founded by a botanist called Nikolai Vavilov. And before the siege begins, he was arrested by Stalin's government, and he was tried on false pretenses and thrown into prison, and he dies in prison from starvation as a result of that. And it was, the things that he was made to admit to were completely false. And the story of what happened to Vavilov took decades to emerge, and it was only really because of the work of a Russian journalist who decided he wanted to find out what happened to Vavilov and pursued the story, went and interviewed jailers who worked at the prison, and then he wrote up the story of what he discovered, the true story of what happened to this amazing botanist and explorer who had founded the world's first seed bank. And that book that he wrote was banned in Russia. The government didn't want people to know what had happened to Vavilov, and they tried to suppress it. It was only because that book was shared among sort of underground networks and copies were smuggled out of Russia, and it got to be published in North America and the States and places like that, that it's only because the journalists took those risks and because people ignored the banning of that book that we now know the true history and we can honor what happened to the seed bank's founder. The problem is when you start banning books for dogmatic reasons, or because you have a particular religion or belief system, or because you don't want people to be informed about certain things in the world, it's a very dangerous, slippery slope. And you might ban books because you believe certain things, but you're establishing a principle that people who believe other things than you do should be able to ban the books that you care about. And then all of a sudden the whole thing falls down. So I think any serious writer would be completely against that and would say that it's something that's just democratically an affront to democracy.
Yeah, I listen when I talk to folks that I'm so blessed to have as a guest on our show. I like to listen to the change in the cadence of things that they say when I ask a question. And I heard the tenor of your voice change when you started to really make your message about, the conversation around book banning? Because as a writer, I can only assume, I'm not a writer, that this is something that you take personally in many ways.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, it's a form of censorship. It's something that I'm completely against and feel strongly about. And as soon as a particular group, a political group, a religious group, whoever it is, and there are, of course, every kind of community that has probably tried to ban books in the past, then as soon as you open that door, then you're essentially saying that the circulation of ideas is no longer allowed. And I don't agree that every perspective should be given a platform, but I think banning books is something that most sensible people can stand firmly against.
Absolutely. So talk a little bit about, I think about legacy and what's next and all that, but talk about young writers. What are you seeing in terms of younger writers? You said earlier you read everything, and so much curiosities that you had as a young cat. Talk about what you're seeing. Are you doing anything in terms of instructing or working with younger folks to help them become writers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do have young writers that I meet with and talk to and try to encourage as best as I can. I think the difference,
Oh, no. Simon, did we lose you? Doggone it. Simon, I think we may have lost you. If we did, we're going to ask you to give us a quick jingle back, because I think that we may have lost your signal. So, all right, we'll keep it moving. Sorry, we lost Simon. He was just about to make a great point about young writers. I'm not sure what happened, Henry. I think he might be calling back. Let's give him some time to do that. Boy, Simon Parkin, what an amazing dude, and the work that he's currently got out there. Hopefully he can give us a call back. But yeah, he is calling from, as the phrase goes, from across the pond. Let's, if we can, Henry, let's take a quick short break, and then we'll see if we can get Simon back on the line. All right, guys, 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
It's Choose View with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. I'm going to blame it on the snow. Stuff happens, guys. That's the beauty of live radio. At least we didn't curse and say something silly or stupid. But and sorry we lost Simon. But Simon's back. Let's bring Simon back on. Hey, man, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Hi, yeah, sorry.
I'm going to blame it on the snow.
Yeah.
Blame it on a little bit of snow we're getting here in Chicago. But you were talking about young readers and young writers, I should say, and some of the things that you're doing in that space.
Yeah, just trying to support young writers where I can. I was saying that, it's just, I think, much harder this current point in history where so many magazines and outlets and websites which before would have provided a platform for younger writers coming up, many of them have closed for whatever reason. And so, yeah, it's a much more challenging landscape, I think, for young writers to practice, to learn some of the craft of writing a nonfiction story and then perhaps being able to expand that into a book. And some of those pathways are much harder now. But, yeah, we do what we can, I suppose.
Well, and I think that you were quoted as saying, if I have this correct, that the fact that chronologically so many readers under the age of 45 have grown up during the video game era, and entertainment there, was different than what someone over that age would have had. And so writing as well as reading has changed just by the dynamic of technology. And that seems to have been one of the influences that you've leaned into to kind of talk about, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you just have to look at the options available for us in terms of entertainment, and media today is so rich and varied. And of course, the creators and writers of, be it a television series on Netflix or HBO or a major video game, they're very skilled now at creating storylines and methods to keep us hooked into those stories. And I'm not saying that in a pejorative way. I think many of those things are wonderful, but it does perhaps just mean that writers and authors of books are competing with just so many different things that are demanding our time, as well as, of course, social media, which is something those companies as well are employing many different tricks to try to get us to log in and give them our attention, our limited attention every day. So, yeah, writers have to compete in that field, and it's ever increasingly hard, I would say, and challenging.
Well, I am definitely one of the people that still likes to have a physical book. I still like to read books. Yes, I spend time on social media, and I do a lot of research and checking things online. That's just kind of where we are. But I'm still a book guy, and I'm the guy at the airport now that likes to go to the various the magazine places there, and pick up magazines when I'm traveling. So I'm still that guy that needs to have the tangible thing in my hand. So I mean that some of that's age and generation and all that. But Simon, what's next, man? I know you've been super busy, and your latest work is phenomenal. But what's in your brain when you get your mind's eye working that you want to be working on next?
Well, I can't talk about it too much, but I am working on a new book project that'll probably be out in a couple of years' time. So I'm in the early stages of that. It concerns a court case from the 1980s in New York. It's a really exciting story, and there aren't any books about it out there yet.
Oh, wow.
So it's just a really lovely sense when you can feel like you can break some new ground with the story that you're trying to tell. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to be in Chicago anytime soon and want to do a book signing decide to do a book signing for the Forbidden Garden, I definitely would like to be there to kind of talk you up, because the work's great, and I appreciate you taking some time to be with us this morning, and you've got a new fan in me. So appreciate you, Simon, for being with us this morning. And how can folks find you and find your work?
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks for having me. You can find me online at my website is simonparkin.com, and I'm on Blue Sky and Twitter and all of those places as well, at Simon Parkin. You'll be able to find it easily enough.
Fantastic. All the way from Brighton in the UK, we have Simon Parkin with us this morning. Thank you so much for being with us, Simon. Have a fantastic day, and I look forward to someday hopefully meeting you, and I will definitely connect with you on the socials and online, okay?
Thanks so much. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All right. Simon's day is already halfway started, because it's probably, 6 hours UK time. So it's midday for my man Simon. Thanks for being with us, Simon, and you guys who are listening and following. Thanks for navigating with us through our little bit of technological, imperfection there. We'll take another quick break. We're going to grab some calls when we come back. 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Let's go to Victor in the Pacific Northwest. Hey, Victor, good morning. Welcome to Choose Views.
Hey, Richard Chu. We love you so what you do. But I'd like to say that we'll have to rebrand your show's name from Choose Views to Choose News and Views, because we're going to depend on you to bring us the news, because no one's going to watch mainstream media news any longer, especially Morning Schmo and his sidekick Rika, who went down to Mar-a-Lago to kiss Donald Trump's ring, and then use the excuse that they want to unite the country behind Donald Trump. When Joe Biden was nominated or was elected president, do you think these two turds went down to speak to President Biden and say, well, we're tired of all the rhetoric and the division, so what we need to do is talk to you? And they didn't do that, of course, because they are solid behind the Republicans, the elites.
Yeah.
Have a net worth of over $50 million, so why wouldn't they be?
Sure. I mean, and that's so well put, Victor.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that, and I've tried to, I've dragged them a little bit and I've said what I need to say. It's pretty straightforward. They did what they did to protect themselves. They could give a darn about the people who are in middle America that these are the same hypocrites, by the way, that said that the Democrats need to appeal to the middle American voter. Well, how come you didn't get in your whatever and go to middle America and talk to middle America of any cultural community rather than going to Mar-a-Lago? You should have gone to middle America, but no, you really don't care about America. You care about yourselves. So we know, we
more
can
than anything else.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's
and the Republican. I like to say the Republican that are in control now in Congress and in the White House don't realize what kind of hellfire is going to be raining down upon them when they start promoting these programs or doing away with programs like the SNAP programs, Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. They don't realize that there are over 100 million Americans that depend on these programs, and it's not just Democrats. It's mostly Republicans in rural areas that need extra help for food subsistence, and most of the retired folks in the South live on Social Security, and it's their only source of survival, paying for rent and everything. All these people are going to be suffering tremendous losses, and if you think that families are going to watch their children starve to death or the parents be thrown out in the street and dying because they don't have Medicare or Social Security, then they have another thing coming for them.
And that's to that end. Sorry, Victor. To that end, that's where the phrase "voting against their interest" is true. Now, when we say that, we have to be careful because their interest is also to see pain for other people. So part of that's why I'm careful to say they voted against their interest. No, their interest is to see they think that they aren't going to be touched by the policies and that the others are the ones that are going to suffer the pain. So I can vote for this craziness because my interests are to see their pain. It's not to see their betterment. So, but they're going to feel it too. You're absolutely right, Victor. I got to grab
they're going to have a rude
Go ahead.
Richard, they're going to have a rude awakening when their food SNAPs program is taken away and their Social Security is taken away and Medicaid and Medicare. They're going to be very upset. And, there are 400 million guns in the United States, Richard. So, these people in the rural South, they don't like being, having their lives uprooted and their children dying or their parents dying. No, I predict by the end of the year, Donald Trump is going to have to fortify the White House and the and Congress and the Capitol. They're going to have to put electric fences and a couple more walls. And they're going to have the National Guard patrol the whole area. Not because of Democrats, but it's going to be because of pissed off Republicans who lost their kids, who lost their parents.
The pitchfork because of these policies. But that's what they voted for. So that's where we're going to be, Victor. Hey, listen, man, keep it cool on the Pacific Northwest side of the country. Thanks.
Okay, you keep us appraised of the news because I ain't watching mainstream news anymore.
We got you, Victor. Thank you so much for your call. All right, let's keep it on the West Coast. Let's go to Dave in San Francisco. Dave, welcome to Choose Views. Good morning.
Oh, hey, Richard. Yeah, I was listening back around when you were talking about those Chinese Bibles that Trump is hawking, and you got to wonder who's getting the royalties on that there Bible.
Great question. That was sent to me earlier in terms of a text that I got from someone that said, "Yeah, so how much, what will, and what portion of that will be classified as a tip that doesn't get taxed?" So, yeah, I mean, once again, the stupidity of folks is just rampant. And, their lack of being willing, their arrogance to not be educated and be knowledgeable is crazy. And so people are buying, the Oklahoma education guy, is he made the decision, but the folks in Oklahoma are the ones that voted to have that kind of leadership in office. So there you go. It's
Hey, well, a lot of the scams that Trump and his buddies are up to are basically variations on the currency speculators. Ron Paul right now is doing an ad. Oh, America's about to fail. Buy gold, gold, gold.
Yeah.
And that's Ron Paul's gig for the last 40 years. And so, those guys are intentionally fluctuating the value of whole nations by praising these countries and then cursing them, praising them, cursing them, praising them, and they bounce the currency exchange. And when they do that, they're invested in X and Y.
Yeah.
And then they cost trillions of dollars worth of shift for their measly $10,000 in currency variation. And it's penny wise and pound foolish, and whole nations, farmers have got to live on producing grain in the real world, and some fly-by-night penthouse con artists end up variations on the value of fruit.
Yeah.
So it's, this goes all the way back to when they wrote The Wizard of Oz 100 years ago, or long before that. And Trump's buddies are just pulling the same old game of 100 years ago, and they want no regulations because we finally came up with some regulations to put a stop to it. And, so it's they sure love it when people forget history.
Yep, they do. That's right. That's why they want to get rid of books, David. So listen, man, thanks for calling. Appreciate your support and your contribution all the time. David and Victor on the West Coast this morning, guys, waking up earlier than folks here in the Midwest. Tomorrow we're going to have, of course, our good friend Karen Byrne with us, and we'll be chatting it up. We're going to talk about a few things that are direct and indirect parts of Project 2025, but also cabinet picks and break down some things there. But I want to hit a couple quick clips that I've been promising you guys. I think it's just need to be. If you haven't heard them, we're going to play them for you here. We're going to start off with this one from Representative Stansbury talking about the cabinet picks. Check this out.
Got now a worldwide wrestling executive who's going to run education. We've got a sexual predator who was about to have a bipartisan report released by the House of Representatives to be our AG. We've got a Fox News commentator who's going to run the military for us. So if my colleagues across the aisle want to talk about qualifications, they want to talk about efficiency, they want to talk about the federal workforce, then let's talk about it, because you're talking about putting into place leadership in these federal agencies who are absolutely unqualified, who are dangerous, and know nothing about the agencies that they're about to be appointed to lead. So this is not about qualifications. This is not about having a qualified federal workforce. This is about laying the ground for the purge that they plan on January 20th and in the days afterwards. And we know that because the very organization for whom the chairman just submitted this letter of support is the Heritage Foundation, who wrote Project 2025, which gave us the blueprint for the purge itself and what they are planning inside every single one of these agencies. So we need to be clear-eyed about what this actually is and about what is trying to be accomplished, and why 4 weeks before we're about to adjourn for the holidays, the Republicans are bringing this bill to a markup without an actual hearing. This is modern McCarthyism. They are preparing for a purge. They are going after members of the federal government who are advancing because they are people of color, women, LGBTQ+, other members of our community who have been excluded systematically from participating in federal service and leadership positions, and then they're going to put their own unqualified loyalists in there to take out our federal workforce. That is what this bill is about. It's about creating a statutory framework to do that, and we're going to fight it every step of the way.
And she's right. That's the laundry list of things is hugely important. But the last thing she said is also, I think, the biggest takeaway. We're going to fight this every step of the way. And if you're not willing to fight those who are elected officials on any level, then get out of the way. And if you as an individual aren't willing to stand up and fight, like Victor said about families, then you need to get out of the way and let somebody get in the game that's going to get some work done. That's the other part of what Victor was saying. In my interpretation, is that if we know that the folks on the right are going to be some of the ones that suffer from these policies that Representative Stansbury talks about, but those of us on the left, we have to take the lead. We have to take the lead and say, you know what, we tried to tell you, and we're going to fix the country for all of us, and push our elected officials, as I've said so many times. But it needs to be said over and over again because we can't sleep on that. That's what I more concern myself with is folks sleeping on that. We're going to take a quick break, come back, grab a couple last calls, 773-763-9278. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, welcome back, guys. 773-763-9278. Catch us on Facebook Live, Twitter stream, TuneIn Radio, iHeart, all the rest. Let's go to Robert real quickly. Hey, Robert, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. I just wanted to comment on what that Congresswoman was saying. She didn't use the word, but what she is describing is the ascending of tyranny across America. And I think that's important for people to understand that it will be tyranny. And I want to kind of push back on people that are thinking or saying that they don't understand how this will impact people in general. They fully understand that. The real question becomes, what will people do? Will people just sit back, not call their Congress people, not get out and start to communicate with their neighbors and say this is nonsense? Because we are on the precipice of tyranny ascending across this country. And if anybody underestimates that and thinks that they'll shrink from whatever the blowback is, you'll find out they won't. And they are vicious. They are inhumane. They have no concern for anybody else's needs whatsoever. They'll just laugh it off.
Yeah,
and they'll push forward.
And that's Robert. You said it spot on, and that's why people. I want people to stay awake and stay aware and stay plugged in, because it'll be the things that people don't expect to happen, and then suddenly they're gone or they've happened, and you wonder, how did we get here? Folks like you aren't going to wonder that. I don't mean to put that in your lap, but I know. But there are people who are going to get a rude awakening because they.
Let me tell you a quick little phrase I got from a book that I read about a year ago. The phrase was the shock of delayed comprehension. They fully understand that. They understand they will do things that so shock the American people that they'll all of a sudden go, oh, my God, it's worse than I ever thought. Yep. People need to be prepared, and they need to be steadfast and be steely about this and just stand up. Because if people stand up, that's their biggest threat.
Right.
If people stand up and say, we won't play this game, we'll stop buying things, we'll shut down the economy, that's the kind of response that people have to be capable of mounting, is saying, we'll shut the economy down. We won't buy a single thing. And if half of the economy stood up, or the people stood up and said, we won't buy, that would shock them. That is a simple act of economic power that the American people have, and people should be prepared to behave like that.
Exactly.
They are going to shock people.
Exactly. Robert, good point, man. Thanks for your contribution this morning.
Thank you.
Stay safe today. He's right, and people need to be prepared. I keep saying it. I've been saying it. I was saying it before the election. I'm saying it certainly now since the election. You cannot stay asleep. And listen, we got here because I can go way, way back, but I'll go back way back. I'll go back to President Obama's his first term, midterms. People stayed at home. They slept. They didn't get involved. And then they blamed President Obama for not getting everything fixed and done. And where's the yes, we can and we can change? It's because y'all stayed your behinds at home. That's the truth. That is a stone cold truth. People stayed at home. They got happy and proud. Oh, I voted for Obama. Okay, what about the rest of the civics lesson? You only took half the test. You didn't vote in the midterms and the local elections. And now it's part of why we are here. So that being said, to Robert's point, you cannot stay, you can't be comfortable, y'all. I get it. I said it at the beginning of the show. I was looking for, a few years to go, woosah. It ain't here. Got to stand the fight. And you should be standing on the shoulders of your ancestors, whatever community you come from. Because they had a little bit harder fight than we do today. Different fight, certainly. All right, let's grab one last call. Let's go to Eric, who is here in the Chicagoland. Eric, hey, welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard. I love your show. I need you to talk me off the ledge, man.
What? What's up?
So I am at the point where I'm sick and tired of liberals and progressives saving the country each and every single time from these morons. We're all in the lifeboat, right? Half the people in the lifeboat are busy poking holes in it, while the other half, the liberals and progressives, are trying to plug those holes and say, hey, just hold on. We're almost to the shore. We're almost to the shore. Hold on. And our policy saves the country, and then, if we don't get, it's like we don't get credit for it. Yeah. I mean, every single time it seems like people get amnesia and then just be like, well, that everything's doing fine. Yeah, everything's doing fine is because you had the liberals, Obama, Clinton, and Biden come in and actually save us, bring us back from the brink.
Yep.
It's like we're always the dang gone janitors trying to clean up behind all of these bad policies. I mean, so... it's like at some point you gotta let the people just drink the Brondo. I mean, they're idiots.
Eric,
I'm help me. I was like, turn me back to the light. Like give me some faith in the fact that we're gonna go through this again, fight the good fight again, and then once everything gets fixed, then all of a sudden you bring in some moron to come in there and try to deconstruct the government.
And the problem too to that is that Donald Trump is going to have all this largesse of the work that we just did. And he's going to take credit for it. And we know that. All right, so a little bit of a woosah moment here, Eric. Listen, man, I was trying not to interrupt you so you can get it out. The first thing I'm going to tell you is you can call this show every day of the week if you need to get it out. We can start there in terms of getting you back off the ledge, because there are a lot of people who are feeling the way you are feeling. And I believe that one of the things that we have to do is acknowledge that. And like Bernice King said, not wallow in our sorrow. Those are not her words exactly, but her point was we have to look in that direction, because I get the sense that you're a guy that stands on the shoulders of a community that was brought here not by their own will. We can't. Oh
yeah, I'm black. Yep.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to say it in the most right way as possible. We don't have the luxury, Eric, of not. We don't have the luxury of not standing proud for the folks who are our ancestors. Okay.
Yep.
And I will tell you, Eric Grant and I, who host a family meeting, we talk about this often. We stand on some pretty stout, strong shoulders of people who had even bigger forces against them. And so I say this to our community specifically, but to our American community more broadly. We have to make absolutely certain that we are the change agents and that we still remain that light, Eric. I say that from the bottom of my progressive heart. I am not going to lay down, and I am not going to let folks like you and many others lay down. I got you. I promise you that. And like I said, you can call here every day if you need to get it out, so that you can function in your day and know that I at least got that out of my system so that I have a path forward. And if I'm going to be one of the folks, the voices to lead that, then I'll take that on proudly.
Thanks, man, because I got some people in my family who are a union family, and they voted Republican because the Republicans are pro-union. I got to deal with that. I mean,
you have to. Here's what you can do in that space. You have to hold your ground. Because what they want to try to do is make their message stronger than yours and more powerful and more viable. You have to let them know. And one of the things that you can do, which is why I say this as a little bit of a plug, listening to the show will help you, is because I'm trying to provide content and topics and arm you with ammunition to be able to show them how their decision to vote the way that they did is harmful. And so send me an email at richard@WCPT820. And I will send you articles and other information so that you can have things to give people so that you're not always fighting that fight with them alone. That's what I'm going to contribute to you, Eric, to be able to help you maintain that sense of strength.
Thanks, man.
All right, man. Be safe out there today. If you're in Chicago, it's wet, it's snowy, so be careful. And we'll talk with you soon. All right?
Peace.
All right, man. Stay strong. You got it. Yeah, man. Listen, y'all, that's where we have to be. And if that's what the good Lord did in putting us all here to manage this craziness, then that's what we have to stand up and do. You know, we don't have the luxury, unfortunately, to yield to this fight. And Robert said it, and others have said it today. And the thing that they want us to do, guys, is to disconnect and to not be united. That's what they want us to do. And I am not going to let that happen in the space that I get to occupy here. Not going to let that happen. And I promise you to be a voice of support and a way for you guys to have a spot to come to and help you keep it on the rails. So don't let these punks try to push you away. And if they're family, you got to call them out. You just do. I'm sorry, but you do. If you're at a family gathering and somebody says some nonsense about loving Trump and Trump's better, you got to call them out and tell them they're a damn liar or a damn fool or both. Don't be afraid to do that. Let me tell you something. As we wrap up, if you lose a family member that's voting for this nonsense, and I'm going to talk with Karen about this tomorrow, then you need to let them go. Because somebody else that isn't talking this nonsense will be a better fit in that void. I'm being dead cold serious. You don't have the luxury to let that garbage be part of your life at this point, because we have to fight together to move forward to win this battle. And I promise you I'm going to do my part. So listen, guys, as always, it's great to be with you every single day. Take that deep breath, guys. Make your life count. We will be back tomorrow. Have a great day.